David, to have a movie where the script was kind of with you for this long period of time, why did it take so long for this film to kind of come into fruition?
Technology.
Yeah, technology. I mean, we kind of couldn't figure out how to do it to begin with, and then once we figured it out, we couldn't afford it. Yeah, it was a process of distillation. I mean, the first script that I read had to be 240 pages, so it was a question of which 60 pages are going to go.
But, because technology can easily overtake a movie, and so how do you, as a filmmaker, kind of rein it in and make sure that, there's the ability of the story, which is so amazing, can be told?
Well, I mean, every choice has to be in service of story, and the characters are in service of the story, and so you have a hierarchical. I mean, so there are things that you do that are in service of character, and that's always in service of story and theme, and so the technology from my standpoint was always we can't literally afford to create the mathematical representation of a human being in reality, because there's just too much that goes on. But if we know, just as every day when we shoot in a movie, we're not using the sun as it is, we're faking that. We're not using the world as it is, we're faking that. We're not. So you paint. And when we could define and sub-define all the things that Benjamin had to do, we could then say, this is how much we can make of him. And sometimes it's only, a postage stamp in the entirety of the screen. Sometimes it's just a little bit, but the same kind of care and effort has to go into that. But once we could get it down so it was just this much of him, then we could afford to do it.
And actually, if we can talk about that, the fact that the acting really is confined to a very, limited space for some of your scenes, was it more difficult because it's really just focused on eyes and ears and nose? And
no, it's the same process. I mean, the camera's focusing on, they take what information they need, and in that instance, for the younger stuff, it was just the face, but you still.
When you say younger, you mean older.
Right, because this went on, just trying to do the math of
when he's a child and he's an old man on the outside.
Right, okay, 64 means 17. Anyways.
But did you do all of the facial stuff to place into the film?
Yeah.
Afterwards or in parallel to?
Yeah, afterwards.
No, afterwards.
Yeah, ostensibly.
So Taraji's working off of
Peter.
Yeah, Peter, and then I'm working off Taraji, but
Right.
I had complete, I have complete freedom because there's multiple cameras that are digitally capturing the information. So I have full power to, as Fincher describes it, to drive the performance, even though they only take the face bit, discard the rest.
You didn't do anything else on the side.
Did a lot of T-Rex kind of stuff. Wow.
Little arms.
So Kate, did you have a similar process, or did you have a more? You were actually able to be there.
Well, I was aging the regular way.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit.
Well, but
as opposed to the
I mean, we didn't do any head replacements. You had to do the ass-numbing work of lying in a bed 12 hours a day after 6 hours of.
Some people call that a holiday.
Yeah, well, I don't know anyone who would call that a holiday.
I was talking to Julia previously, and I said it must have been really interesting to play a scene where really it's just you're in bed lying there, and so physically you can't really do too much except maybe roll around and moan. I mean, it's just so it's a kind of.
I tried the head spinning thing, but it just didn't fit into the film.
So actually, that was Babel.
An old man's scene.
But that's on a street.
But look, it's a
That's
bit
on a
like
dirt road,
life,
puddle of blood,
really. In that, if I look back to my teenage years, they do feel like another movie ago, and that the way this was shot, as we shot the bulk of the film, there was quite a significant gap while David fiddled with twiddled knobs and cut bits and
not a knob twiddling.
and then we came back and shot the hospital stuff, and it was really interesting to be with Julia, who wasn't privy to any of the actual experience of the film and had to find out about the actual film through the diary. So it was kind of
Oh, actually, one of the interesting things was Julia could come in. I mean, we cast Julia a year before we shot with her. And then when she came in to do the 8 days or 10 days that we did on the stage, we showed her the movie. So she got to watch all of the flashbacks, so she knew she could see that. So the whole movie was basically, I mean, done, and then we would sort of glue it together with these scenes.
What I really liked about the film also is the approach to impending death, or and therefore, it felt almost Asian. I don't know if that felt, if I could kind of even go there with that, because we have this kind of knowledge. We acknowledge that it's going to happen, and therefore we might come back again. All this kind of.
Yeah, we run from it as fast as we can.
Yeah.
So when you get a script like this, which so it's so open about the end, so do you kind of tap into your own kind of beliefs, or did you come out with a different kind of feeling of what's going to happen inevitably for you?
I think it just starts you thinking in themes of like the question. It really made me, ask myself. I wonder how much time I have left. Am I halfway through? Am I in midlife, or am I nearing the end? I don't know. Which then takes me to, I want these moments to be important, and I don't want to waste time. It puts that. It kind of fine tunes direction in a way.
It's an odd thing too, just pictorially, because if you see someone who's 50 years old, you don't think, oh, well, they only have 30 years left, or they only have 15 years left. In some cases, but when you see somebody who's aging in reverse and they're 11, because you've been through that, you're looking at them and you know how much time they have, and it does put an interesting sort of dramatic tension to the.
Kate, did you did you use any of the people in your real life to play the roles? Did you kind of source it from anybody, or?
Not consciously. I think, I grew up with my grandmother, and so I think I obviously was around, very acutely around her aging. One of my first jobs was in a nursing home. I feel like I've been around old people my whole life and actually really enjoy that, the privilege of having grown up in a house of 3 generations. But, you don't specifically place a character, reduce it into your own experience. This is a film that one has to rise up to, because the stakes are really big. It's about a life in, the grand sweep of all the experiences that and choices that life accumulates. So it obviously, as we were talking about it, one thinks about, various deaths and losses and loves that one has experienced. But in the end, then you just have to play the scene and play the story, because this is another world entirely.
I disagree completely.
Yeah, but you always do, and you're always wrong.
I'm a contrarian.